Hello and welcome back to Dragon Age Origins. We are reading Codex. We have so much to catch up on that I made this last video into two parts because we still have about another 20 codexes, I believe, to catch up on. So let's get started. Hierarchy of the Circle. It is no simple matter safeguarding ordinary men from mages, and mages from themselves. Each tower must have some measure of self-government. For it is ever the Maker's will that men to be given responsibility for our own actions, to sin and fail, as well as to achieve the highest grace and glory of our own strength. You who will be tasked with the protection of the circle must be aware of its workings. The first enchanter is the heart of any tower. The course his circle will take. He will choose which apprentices may be tested and made full mages, and you will work most closely with him. Assessing the first enchanter will be the senior enchanter, a small council of the most treasured and experienced mages in the tower. From this group, the next first enchanter is always chosen. Beneath the council are the enchanters. These are the teachers and mentors of the tower, and you must get to know them in order to keep your finger on the pulse of the circle, for the enchanters will always know what is happening among the children. All those who have passed their harrowing but have not taken apprentice are mages. This is where most trouble in the circle lies. In this idleness and inexperience of youth, the untested apprentices are the most numerous demised of any tower, but they more often pose threat to themselves due to their lack of training than to anyone else. Knight Commander Sinrine of the Chantry Templar in a letter to his successor. Blood Magic, the Forbidden School. Foul and corrupt are you, who have taken my gift and turned it against my children. Transfiguration 1810. The ancient Tevinter did not originally consider blood magic a school of its own. Rather, they saw it as a measure to achieve greater power in any school of magic. The name, of course, refers to the fact that magic of this type uses life, specifically in the form of blood instead of mana. It was common practice at one time for a magister to keep a number of slaves on hand so that should he undertake the working of a spell that was physically beyond his ability, he could use the blood of his slaves to bolster the casting. Over time, however, the Imperium discovered types of magic that could only be worked by blood. Although lyrium will allow a mage to send his conscious mind into the Fade, blood would allow him to find the sleeping minds of others, view their dreams, and even influence or dominate their thoughts. Just as treacherous blood magic allows the veil to be opened completely so that demons may physically pass through into our world. The rise of the Chant of Light and the sequential fall of the old Imperium has led to blood magic being all but stomped out, as it should be, for it poses nearly as great a danger to those who practice it as to the world at large. From the Four Schools, a treatise by First Enchanter Josephus. Beyond the Veil, Spirits and Demons. It is challenging enough for the casual observer to tell the difference between the Fade and the creatures that live within it, let alone between one type of spirit and another. In truth, there is little that distinguishes them, even for the most astute mages, since spirits are not physical entities and therefore are not restricted to recognizable form or even having a form at all. One can never tell for certain what is alive and what is merely part of the scenery. It is therefore advisable for the inexperienced researcher to greet all objects he encounters. Typically, we misuse the term spirit to only refer to the benign, or at least less malevolent creatures of the Fade, but in truth, all the demise of the realm beyond the Fade are spirits. As the chant of light notes, everything within the Fade is a mimicry of our world, a poor imitation, for the spirits do not remotely understand what they are copying. It is no surprise that much of the Fade appears like a manuscript translated from Tevinter into Orzolan and back again by drunken internets. It is no surprise that much of the Fade appears like a manuscript translated from the Tevinter into Orzolan and back again by drunken initiates. In general, spirits are not complex, or rather, they are not complex as we understand such things. Each one seizes upon a single facet of human experience. Rage, hunger, compassion, hope, etc. This one idea becomes their identity. We classify as demons those spirits who identify themselves with darker human emotions and ideas. The most common and weakest form of demon one encounters in the Fade is the rage demon. They are much like perpetually boiling kettles, for they exist only to vent hatred, but rarely have an object to hate. Somewhat above these are the hunger demons, who do little but eat or attempt to eat everything they encounter, including other demons. This is rarely successful. Then there are sloth demons. These are the first intelligent creation one typically finds in the Fade. They are dangerous, only on rare occasions that they can be induced to get up and do harm. Desire demons are more clever and far more powerful, using all forms of bribery to induce mortals into their realms. Wealth, love, vengeance, whatever lies closest to your heart. The most powerful demons yet encountered are the pride demons, perhaps because they amongst all their kind most resemble men. From Beyond the Veil, Spirits and Demons by Enchanter Midriddle. The Tranquil are the least understood by most visible members of the Circle. Every city of respectable size boasts a Circle of Magi shop, and every one of these shops is run by a Tranquil profiteer. The name is a misnomer, for they are not tranquil at all. Rather, they are like inanimate objects that speak. If a table wished to sell you an enchanted penknife, it could pass as one of these people. Their eyes are expressionless, their voice monotone. Incomparable craftsmen they might be, but they are hardly the sort of mages to put ordinary folk at ease. From In the Pursuit of Knowledge, the Travels a Chancery Scholar by Brother Jiminji. The Veil. I detest this notion that the veil is some manner of invisible curtain that separates the world of the living from the world of the spirits. Whether it be called the Fade or Beyond is a matter of radical politics I refuse to indulge in at the moment. There is no this side and that side when it comes to the veil. One cannot think of it as a physical thing or a barrier or even a shimmering wall of holy light. Thank you very much for that image, your perfection. Think of the veil instead as opening one's eyes. Before you open them, you saw a world as you see it now, stoic, solid, unchanging. Now that they are open, you see our world as the Spirit sees it, chaotic, ever-changing, a realm where the imagined and the remembered have as much substance as that which is real. More, in fact, a spirit sees everything as defined by will and memory, and this is why they are so lost when they cross the veil. In our world, imagination has no substance. Objects exist independently of how we remember them or what emotion we associate with them. Mages alone possess the power to change the world with their minds, and perhaps this forms the nature of a demon's attraction to them. Who can say? Regardless, the act of passing through the veil is much more about changing one's perception than a physical transition. The veil is an idea, it is the act of transitioning itself. And it is only the fact that both living beings and spirits find the transition difficult that gives the veil any credence as a physical barrier at all. From a dissertation on the Fade as a physical manifestation by Marono, senior enchanter of the Mithras Circle of Magi, 655 Steel. The Litany of Aldrala. Adrale of Byrantum dedicated her life to the study of blood magic, the academic study rather than the practice. A deeply pivetous mage, she renowned in her days for having found a counter to every form of mind control, a defense against dreamwalkers, and every counter spell to demonic summons. Her efforts unappreciated in her native Tevinter. However, after 3 different magisters attempted to have her killed, she fled the country, choosing to take refuge in the land of blessed Adrastate's birth. She spent the remainder of her days with the Circle in Ferelden. The Litany of Andrala disturbs the casting of mind control spells. Use the litany whenever a creature tries to dominate another with magic, and it will interrupt the casting. Once the spell is in effect and a character is under blood magic power, it is too late. Abomination. We arrived in the dead of night. We had been tracking the Maleficarent for days and finally had him cornered, or so we thought. As we approached, a home on the edge of town exploded, sending splinters of wood and fist-sized chunks of rock into our ranks. We had but moments to regroup before fire rained from the sky, that sounds of destruction wrapped in a hideous laughter from the center of the village. There, perched on top of the spiral of the village chantry, stood the mage, but he was human no longer. We shouted prayers to the Maker and deflected what magic we could, but as we fought, the creature fought harder. I saw my comrades fall, burned by the flaming sky, or crushed by the debris. The monstrous creature, looking as if a demon were wearing a man, like a twisted suit of skin, spotted me and grinned. We had forced it to this. I realized the mage had made this pact, given himself over to the demon to survive our assault. Transcribed from a tale told by a former Templar in Cumberland, 884 blessed. It is known that mages are able to walk the Fade while completely aware of their surroundings. Unlike most others who may only enter the realm as dreamers and leave it scarcely aware of their experience, demons are drawn to mages, though whether it is because of this awareness or simply by the virtue of their magical power in our world is unknown. Regardless of the reason, a demon always attempts to possess a mage when it encounters one, by force or by making some kind of deal, depending on the strength of the mage. Should the demon get the upper hand, the result is an unholy union, known as an abomination. Abominations have been responsible for some of the world's catastrophism in history, and the notion that some mage is a remote tower could turn into a creature unbeknownst to any as the driving force beyond the creation of the circle of magi. Thankfully, abominations are rare. The circle has methods of weeding out those who are too at risk for demonic possession, and scant few mages would give up their free will to submit to a bond with a demon. But once an abomination is created, it will do its best to create more. Considering that equal squares of Templars have been known to fall at the hands of a single abomination, it is not surprising that the Chantry takes the business of the Circle of Magi very serious indeed. Arcane horror. Upon ascending to the floor of the tower, we were greeted by a gruesome sight, a raged collection of bones wearing the robes of one of the senior enchanters. I had known her for years, watched her raise countless apprentices, and now she was a mere puppet for some demon. Transcribed from a tale told by a Templar in Antiva City, 713 Storm. Demons, of course, have no form in our world. When they enter, either where the veil is particularly thin, or through blood magic summoning, they must have possession of a body. When a pride demon takes control of the corpse of a mage, an arcane horror is born. Although they appear to be little more than bones, they are fierce creatures possessing not only all the spellcasting abilities of a living mage, but also the capacity to heal and even command other animated corpses. Bear. No beast is more beloved by Deathram than the bear. When the world was new, Deathram gave one secret to each creature to keep. The foxes traded their secret to Anduril for wings. The hares shouted theirs. The hares shouted theirs to the treetops. The birds sold theirs for gold and silver. Only the bears kept Deathram's gift deep within their dens. They slept the months away in the company of their secrets and nothing else. When Deathram, what had been done with his gift, he snatched their wings from the foxes, silenced the voices of the hares, and turned the birds into yappers. But the bears he honored for their steadfastness. Transcribed from a Dalish Tale 9-8 Dragon. Normally, it is almost unheard of for bears to attack travelers. They are, in fact, so shy and so inactive during the day that most people never encounter a bear at all. However, should a bear be provoked, they are remarkably dangerous. The normality placid seeming creatures become enraged and can strike massive blows with their paws, capable of knocking a man off his feet. Corpse. To anyone who doubts the wickedness of blood magic, I say, with your own hand, strike down the corpse of your own brothers who have fallen in battle to a Malthacharant. Then we may discuss morality. Knight Commander. Benedict's in a letter to the Divine, 546, exulted. The walking dead are, as the superstitious are, want to believe. The living come back for revenge. They are rather corpses possessed by demons. The shambling corpse controlled by a demon of the sloth causes its enemies to become weak and fatigued. Corpses possessed by a rage demon go berserk and simply wander into their opposites mindlessly. Devouring corpses are held by hunger demons and feed upon the living. The more powerful demons rarely designed to possess a dead host. Desire demon. In all my studies, I must say that the most intriguing was my interview with the desire demon. That the creature was willing to speak with me was a sign that this was no mere monster, mindlessly driven by its nature, but rather a rational being as interested in me as I was in it. It took a form that I would call female, although I had no doubt that it could appear otherwise. I wondered if it appeared as it did because I wanted it to, or because I expected it to. She, and I could only think of her as such now, smiled warmly at me and laughed a musical sound that seemed troll to thrill my old heart. So frightened was I of this creature's legendary ability to twist the hearts of men. So relieved was I when I looked across the table into her dark eyes that this was a fearsome creature of the Fade. But as I spoke with her, I slowly came to realize that this demon was merely as misunderstood as we mages are ourselves. From the journal of former senior enchanter Malus, once of the Circle of Ravini, declared apostate in 920 Dragon. I wonder why. Of all the threats from beyond the veil, few are more insidious and deceptively deadly than the desire demon. In folklore, such demons are characterized as peddlers of lust, luring their prey into a sexual encounter only to be slain at the culmination. While a desire demon can indeed deal in pleasure, in truth, they deal with any matter of desire that humans can possess: wealth, power, and beauty, to name a few. Far more intelligent than their bestial hunger and rage demons, and more ambitious than the demons of sloth. These dark spirits are amongst the most skilled at tempting mages into possession. Many who serve the whim of a desire demon never realize it. They are manipulated by illusions and deceptive, if not outright mind control. Although these demons are reluctant to resort to such crude measures, instead they seem to take great pleasure in corruption. The greater the deceit, the greater their victory. Only demons of pride prove more fearsome opponents when roused. Their ability to affect the mind allow them to assume disguises and even alter the environment to their purposes, not to mention the great strength and speed they possess if they should have to resort to more physical means. Most often, a desire demon will attempt to bargain its way to freedom. If overpowered, many stories exist that depict mages defeating desire demons to the point where a wish can be wrested from them. It should be noted that in such stories, almost the demon almost always gets the upper hand, even when the mage thinks his wish has been granted. Dragon. Dragonlings. Newly hatched dragons are roughly the size of a deer and vociferously hungry. They live for a short time in their mother's lair before venturing out on their own. The slender, wingless creatures are born in vast numbers, as only a few ever make it to adulthood. Ghoul. What the blight does not what the blight does not destroy, it corrupts. Any creature infected with the darkspawn taint that does not have the good fortune to die outright becomes a ghoul, a twisted shadow of itself. The name originally comes from the men, whether human, dwarven, or elven, who became tainted, usually while being held as a captive food source by the darkspawn. They would turn into cannibals, preying on other captive slaves to the will of the archdemon, driven mad by pain. During a blight, the corruption of the darkspawn spread through the wilder areas of Thetis and infect the animals found there. This is grotesque enraged beasts called berserk, as well as blight wolves. Fortunately, ghouls rarely survive their corruption for long. Golem. Once a crucial part of Oakstagar's defense, golems have all but vanished as the secret to their manufacture was lost over thousands of years ago. What few golems are made are guarded closely by the Shaprite, brought out when the battle with the Darkspawn grows desperate enough to risk their loss. No one would sell a golem for any price, but in ancient times, dwarves sold many golems to the magistry lords of Tevinter. They are dastarding weapons in war, living siege engines, capable of hurling boulders like a catapult or blowing through enemies' lines like an earthquake. Pride demon. Let me explain what it is to face a pride demon, my friend. You may scoff and say that our talent exists only to face mages, but you will encounter demons often. They will be summoned by a Maleficar and bound to do his bidding, and while at times they will be forced into the possession of a host, they will also face you in their true form, a powerful opponent indeed. Do not underestimate it. Pride is powerful and intelligent. When we have encountered one in its true form, its most common attacks are bolts of fire and ice. Fire they will use to burn an opponent, and the magical flame will combust anything you wear regardless of make. Ice they use to freeze an opponent in place. Be cautious, for they enjoy employing this against warriors in particular. More than one group of Templars has made the mistake of attempting to overwhelm a pride demon and suffered the consequences, believe me. And if you think that having the aid of other mages will assist you, you are wrong. Pride demons can render themselves immune to magic for short times and are adept at dispelling magic that is cast upon you. As much as we Templars are able to disrupt spells, think on that for a moment, my friends. Be wary of how prideful you become, lest you find too much in common with such a fiend. Transcription of the lecture given by Veteran Templar Commander of Tanterville, 686 steel. Rat. What, are you mad? Even the most giant of rats isn't going to present that much of a problem to anyone larger than a cat. Even the stories in the archives that tell of the blight-touched rats still only attributed them to the ability to spread the plague. The rat themselves got no larger than perhaps 3 feet in length, covered in sharp, bony spikes and boils. Disturbing? Certainly, but dangerous? This is no fantasy conjured by the madman. Young man, you have much more important creatures to concern yourself with. Transcript of a lecture given by Nala, Senior Enchanter of Hosberg, 844 Blessed. Note, she was later eaten by a blight rat in 846 Blessed. Revenant. An entire unit of men all slain by one creature, and I didn't believe at first your perfection. But it appears that This is so. We have a survivor, and while at first I thought his rantings pure exaggeration, it appears to be no simple skeleton. The description of the creature's abilities were eerie, similar to those our brother at Marnell's Pearl encountered almost a century ago. Men pulled through the air to skewer themselves on the creature's blade and attacked so quickly that it was able to assault multiple opponents at once. Know your perfection. What we have here is indeed a revenant and nothing less. From a letter to Divine Amara III, 571 Exalted. A revenant is a corpse possessed by a demon of pride or of desire, making it amongst the most powerful possessed opponent that one can face. Many poses spells, but most are armored and prefer the use of their material talents. They are weak against physical attacks, but regenerates quickly and commonly use telekinesis to pull opponents into melee range should they try to flee. Revenants also have the ability to strike multiple opponents surrounding them, stay at range if possible, and strike quickly. That is the only way to take such a creature down. Shade. It's often been suggested that the only way for a demon to affect the world of the living is by possessing a living or once living body, but this is not always true. Indeed, a shade is one such creature, a demon in its true form that has adapted to affect the world around it. My hypothesis is this: we already know that many demons become confused when they pass through the veil into our world. They are unable to tell the living from the dead. The very static nature of our universe being confusing to a creature that is accustomed to a physicality defined entirely by emotion and memory. Most demons seek to immediately seize upon anything they perceive as life, jealously attempting to possess it. But what of those that do not? What of those that encounter no life or fail to possess a body? What of those that are more cautious by their nature? These demons watch, they lurk, they envy. In time, such a demon will learn to drain energy from the psyche of those it encounters, just as it did in the Fade. Once it has drained enough, it has the power to manifest and will forever be known as a shade. Such a creature spurns possession. It instead floats as a shadow across its piece of land, preying upon the psyche of any who cross its path. Perhaps it believes itself still in the Fade. There is evidence to believe this is so. The shade will weaken the living by its very proximity. If it forces its will, it can drain a single target very quickly. Some have even been known to assault the minds of the living victims, causing confusion or horror and making the target ripe for the killing. The tragedy of a shade is perhaps that once it has drained a target whole, its appetite is only heightened rather than slighted. From the journal of a former senior enchanter, Malvarus, once of the Circle of Ravinti, declared apostate in 920 Dragon Age. Skeleton. The demons of the Fade are jealous of the living beings they sense from across the Fade. They constantly push against the boundaries of the Fade, and when they finally cross over, they attempt to possess the first living creature they see. They are unable, however, to distinguish that which was once living from that which is still. In fact, a corpse provides an even more tempting target to a weaker demon, as it has no will with which to resist the possession. The demon cannot rationalize why this is, so it only sees a target and grasps at the opportunity. A skeleton is exactly that, a corpse animated by a possessing demon, upon finding itself trapped within a body that cannot sustain itself. The demon is driven insane. It seeks to destroy any life that it encounters, attacking without thought to its own welfare. The exact names given to skeletons of this type vary according to the nature of the demon that possesses it. A fangled skeleton is a skeleton possessed by a hunger demon. These skeletons devour whatever life they encounter and often possesses the ability to drain life, energy, and mana from their victims. A shambling skeleton is a slower moving skeleton possessed by a sloth demon, able to bring euphoric powers against its opponent, slowing them down and even putting them to sleep. More powerful demons have been known to command skeletons, but at that level they are known by other names, revenants and ancient horrors, to name two. Okay, so we are now caught up on the codex for now. Hopefully this video isn't as long as the last one was, and we will continue to keep up with it as we play. But in the next episode, we will get back to figuring out what's going on and how we somehow seemed to have broken the game. I feel like we should have seen Irving die. I don't understand how we didn't. I don't know. We'll find out. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.